Hi, folks. Welcome. See a lot of folks are registered and a lot of folks are coming in. Good to see you all. Okay, let's see. Don't want to waste too much time. I want to kick us off because I know that Jose and our other presenter, Destiny, have a lot to share with you all today. So what's really important in this session is that we will have interpretation. I'm looking to see if our interpreters are here yet, which I don't see.
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. You're here as Rosanna. Let's see. Is that Carla?
It is.
Do you know how to change your name, Carla, on Zoom?
Oh boy. Hold on.
If you hover over your picture, there's 3 little dots and you can click on that and click rename.
Yeah, if you could just bear with me.
No problem. It's a good time to remind folks that we do always require registration for these meetings. So the best way to come in as yourself is to register so you have your own unique link. How are you doing, Carla? Were you able to change your name? You can't tell because there's so many Rosanna.
I can't find it. For some reason, I can't see my own screen.
Let's see.
I'm trying to look for it.
Let me see if I can rename you. Did that work for others? Can other people see now Carla Interpreter as one of the names on the screen?
Oh, I see it now.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, so Carla, I'm going to set you up to start interpreting. Let's see. Great. Okay, so interpretation's now turned on. I'm sharing this slide here that shows how you access the interpretation. So if you go to the bottom of your screen on Zoom, it might look different if you're joining from a mobile device, but there is a little sort of globe icon there. And if you click on that, you can choose your preferred language channel, either English or Spanish. Carla will be on the Spanish channel interpreting for us. Okay. Let's see, and Rosanna, I need to make you a co-host now that I know who the real Rosanna is. So also as you're coming in, if you would like to put in the chat just what you're hoping to learn today, why you came to this session, what drew you to this topic. We had a lot of folks register, so I'm really interested in what all of you are interested in learning from this session. I'm going to keep going so that we can pass it over to Jose and Destiny pretty soon. Per usual, we'll just do a quick welcome. That's what we're doing right now. I'm Caitlin Marquis from Healthy Hampshire. I host these learning circles, which are associated with the emerging Hampshire County Food Policy Council. I think Jose and Destiny are going to do a land acknowledgement, so that might be a little out of order, but we'll hear a quick update from Talia Segoba, who is on our team, and she will share about just sort of what our progress is right now with the Food Policy Council Startup Circle. We'll do the training with Jose and Destiny, and then we'll just do a quick close. So Talia, are you ready for me to pass it over to you?
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. Hey, everyone, I'm Talia. So the Food Policy Council is still working on our launching date, but our next meeting will have a date officially for when we'll be launching the Food Policy Council and having our first few sessions. And we're working on coming up with something really great. So I hope folks are excited for it.
And it sounds like you all, so there's a launch helping circle that has formed, and it sounds like you all are looking at maybe sort of a series of events or engagement opportunities to bring folks up to speed. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. The Helping Circle's been reporting out. They're having some awesome ideas about how to incorporate art and storytelling and things like that into the launch. So we'll keep you posted. It's looking like early next year is the target for that.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you, Tali. I appreciate it. So this is for folks, I'll put this link in the chat in a second, for folks who might have come here through some other channels who are not as aware of the Hampshire County Food Policy Council and what we have going on, and you want to be kept in the loop, you can fill out this survey. Like I said, I'll put it in the chat. And that will give us your email address and contact information. So we have that, but also invite you to answer a few questions just about your interest and level of engagement that you'd like to have with the Food Policy Council. And then our next learning circle, tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, November 30th, 1 to 3 p.m. These are always the last Tuesday of the month from 1 to 3 p.m. I'm guessing we'll have this one, considering what the date for launch is looking like, but we don't yet have a topic, but as most of you know, we will send out an email with the topic as we get closer, but always encouraging folks to just hold the date if you're interested in learning more. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Jose, I believe.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well today. My name is Jose Lugo, and I want to begin us today with a land acknowledgement as soon as I get my slide deck up. This is always a good time when we have this opportunity to acknowledge our neighbors. I want to begin by acknowledging to the east, the neighbors are the Nauset Wampanoag in Massachusetts. To the south, the Mohegan, Quinnipiac, Wapanga, and the Narragansett. To the west, the Pecumtuck, the Nipmuc, Munsee, Lenape, and the Mohican. And to the north, the Wabanaki, Pennacook, Narragansett. I also want to acknowledge those who have been forgotten, erased, and those of us who are lost in between worlds. Acknowledge the land and her sustaining medicines. Acknowledge the water and her healing ways. Acknowledge the air, the wind for his change, and the cleansing of fire. I want to acknowledge the seventh generation, that generation that our elders prayed for, who is here now on this land. I want to acknowledge the past, the elders, the ancients, the wisdoms, those who passed on the wisdom. And I want to also honor those who will be coming, preparing for them. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and just begin introducing myself. My name is Jose Lugo. I am a circle practitioner and here to talk about restoring honor to the restorative justice programs or processes that are used the way Pa'Lante does it. Discuss it through the cultural appropriation of indigenous wisdom by institutions, educational, legal, judicial, etc. My teachings come from my community back in Colorado, the land of the Cheyenne, and the Arapaho before arriving here in 2016. My knowledge and understanding of the talking circle, as we're going to provide today, is a combination between my teachings and then the teachings that I received from Pa'Lante when I was working as the RJ coordinator there at the high school and in working with the community there. Thank you for showing up and being here. And at this time, I'd like to ask, just pass this over to Destiny.
Hi everyone, I'm Destiny. It's nice to meet you. I am a Pa'Lante Peer Leader alum. Well, that sounds crazy to say. I just graduated not that long ago, so it's pretty exciting to be an alum now. It's nice to meet you all. I'm sorry if I go quiet for a little because I'm off my phone, but my pronouns are she, hers, and then I will be passing it on to Alisa. And when I say like pass it on, like I'll be passing it on. That way you can introduce yourself and your pronouns and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elisa Klein. I'm with Grow Food Northampton, and not sure. Oh, my pronouns are she, her, and not sure what else to share, but I'm excited for this topic today.
It looks like I'm next. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor Jelly. I'm from the Health Policy Commission, and I use she, her pronouns. Excited to be here.
It looks like Tammy's not here, so maybe Rosanna is next.
Thank you. Estoy en el canal de español. Mi nombre es Rosana Salazar.
My name is Rosana Salazar.
Yo soy un especialista en comunidad.
I'm a specialist in the community and in evaluation. I work
en CS
in CS with Healthy Families and Community and Healthy Hampshire.
Happy to be here
Uh,
and to experience experimentar este día.
I'm happy to be here and to experiment this day.
Yo pasaré a Taylor.
I will pass it to Taylor.
I think Taylor already went. Jose and Destiny, I hope you don't mind that I'm keeping an eye on this.
I think I'm next
Okay, great.
on the list. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Jeff Harness from Cooley Dickinson. My pronouns are he, him, his. And amongst other things, for this project, I serve as the MassUp Ward Manager.
Looks like Alexandra is next on the list.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Mello. My pronouns are she, her. I've been involved in Hampshire County in food access and nutrition education for some years, and I'm happy to be here to learn. Thank you. And passing it to Zoe.
I don't see Zoe here. So it looks like Cheryl.
I'll go. I'm Cheryl Dukes. My pronouns are we, she. I'm the Director of Healthcare Outreach and Community Engagement at the College of Nursing at UMass Amherst. I am not a nurse. And I pass it to Clark.
Hey everyone, Clark Bankert. I work at CES. My pronouns are she, her, and they, them. And I will pass it to Lexi.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lexi Polkoff. I use she, her pronouns. I work with the Spiffy Coalition out of the same Department of Healthy Families and Communities. And I will pass it to Kristen.
Hi everyone, Kristen Whitmore. I also work at CES and Healthy Hampshire, Special Projects Coordinator, and I work a lot with the Food Policy Council group. So I'm glad everyone's here, and we're excited to be sharing more with you soon about the Food Policy Council. And I will pass it to Sammy.
Hi everybody, my name is Sammy Cunningham. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Northampton. And I'm currently coordinating a community center in Northampton. It's also been called the Resilience Hub. And so I'm really excited to hear about this training because right now we are trying to figure out what we are and figure out how to make decisions as a group and what people's interests are and where those things come from. So I'm just excited to learn today. I'm passing it to Kathy Wicks.
Hi everybody, my name is Kathy Wicks. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Florence and sit on the Human Rights Commission. I currently work as the Director of Sustainability for UMass Dining and Auxiliary Enterprises and have been working in the regional food system for many years now, and I'm really excited to be learning with all of you and to be learning more about the Food Policy Council. Thanks. I will pass it on to Marion.
I don't see Marion here, and I got a text from Kia that she can't make it. So I think Julia Godfrey is next.
Yeah, hi, I am a physician assistant at Cooley Dickinson Hospital and also just involved in my community in Buckland, trying to start a community food forest and very interested in food justice and injustice. And just very happy to finally make one of these meetings that I've been trying to make for a long time and finally have a day off on a Tuesday. So thank you all.
So I don't know. I don't think I saw Kate, Karin, or Jay. Oh, there's Karin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karin Anderson. I am the WIC Community Coordinator for the Franklin, Hampshire, North Quabbin area, WIC standing for Women, Infants, and Children. We are a nutritional program. So I go by she, her, and food justice is always at the top of my priority, especially for our little ones, but also for our older ones. So I'm just happy to be here today to be able to learn what I can.
I don't see James, Roz, or Kat. So I think it would be to you, Talia.
Hey everyone, I'm Talia. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm an inclusive engagement specialist in the Department of Healthy Families. And I think Olivia Field is next. Or maybe.
Yeah, I don't see Olivia, Pat, that name that starts with a Z that I'm not sure how to pronounce.
Sufan. Sue. I think Cynthia might be next.
I'm happy to go next. So Sue Karen is not here. Just want to make sure. Supposed to follow her. Okay. Cindy Swopis representing the Grove, I'm on the board of Grove Food Northampton and also on the Board of Health for the city of Northampton, and excited to learn today. So thank you for offering this. And I'm passing to Courtney Anderson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney Anderson. I'm a manager of the MASSUP program, which is one of the funders for the Food Policy Council. And I'm just excited to be here. And I use she, her pronouns.
I think that's everyone, unless there's somebody who didn't go.
That would be me. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, Heather.
So my name's Heather. I'm a member of a lot of different communities, most of them local to here. I reside in the land of the formerly of the Pecumtuck and Nonotuck. I stand in the shoes of my longest line of ancestors from the Orkney Islands, and I carry teaching from the Upsalaga people in Montana. My pronouns are she, he, or they, pretty much anything but it. Thanks.
Caitlin, I'm not on the list, so I'll go anyway. I'm Sue O'Rourke. I live in West Hampton. I'm part of an interested ad hoc group of residents hoping to improve the lives of West Hampton residents called West Hampton Connects. I've been exploring food as medicine for over 35 years. It's a passion of mine, and I've been involved as a volunteer listening partner with the Food Policy Council for about a year. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We're kind of doing some technological negotiating back in here, Destiny and I, and so we're working on that right now. I'm going to just go ahead and ask Destiny if she can continue with the overview of the vision, Visión de Conjunto, and then we'll move on to the next slide.
So for right here, we're going to be talking about like our overview of what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be going over our agreements, which is our acuerdos, and then circle structure. And my Spanish isn't that bad, so I don't know how to say that without sounding funny. And then we'll also be doing our talking circle.
Terrific, thank you. So
All
these are our
right.
agreements. I'll go ahead and step out of the way.
So for our first agreement, it would be confidentiality. So that would be like to keep whatever like we say here confidential, because sometimes people do like speak about like their personal lives and like personal experiences. Maybe they don't want them shared. Sometimes they do, but we always have confidentiality. And then we have a level of comfort. So you guys let us know like your comfort level and like sharing and speaking. And then we also have like our pass. So like we would pass it on to the next person, and it would be like in the same rotation that we did earlier. So then we would put that list in the chat again, and we just go in that same rotation for each time that we start sharing out. So if possible, whenever you have your camera on while sharing, yeah, that would be helpful. I'm sorry that I'm not doing a very good example of that right now because my camera's off. But it's hard to like manage slides and be on Zoom at the same time without you looking at my forehead. So then we'd have like our speaking order and then our co-host would manage our speaking orders. And then we have our community, and we also have, if possible, to keep your camera on throughout the event. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Again, so what we're going to be discussing today and delving into is the indigenous knowledge. of talking circles and its authentic lineage from where it has come from. And what we want to begin with is this practice of circles is something that is old, something that has been used for a long, long time. And with the colonization of this continent, practices such as community building and circle practice, as we call it, ceremony is, I've also known it to be called, outlawed. And it wasn't until the 70s with the American Indian Religious Freedom Act that Native people were able to openly, legally practice the customs and traditions that have kept us alive, kept us connected. And so we have that resilience and that resistance to continue because of the way of the process of what circle is, how it brings us and sustains us. Destiny, could you cover this one here with us?
Yes. So for our circle practice structure and Pa'Lante, we basically started with our opening, and our opening is always like a quote or a song or like anything that you want to share as like an opening to get ready for our circle. Then we would have our purpose for the circle, and that's what we would go over. Then we would have our talking piece, and we would explain how we use our talking piece. And most of these would be shared later on throughout the slides, so I'm sorry I'm being vague about it. And then we would have our check-in round, so that's basically like you would share your name and kind of something that someone picks. Like it's kind of like a goofy question, like for example, like it would be your name and one of your favorite memes, and then we would go over like our rounds. And our rounds would basically be like topics that would be talking throughout the circle. And the topics throughout the circle pretty much varies on whether you're having like a conflict or a celebration circle. And then our centerpiece would be like our center of our circle. And that's where we have like, okay, my bad. Yeah, so the one main thing that we do in our circles is to have like our centerpiece, and basically all those little pieces we got as gifts from other people that we have spoken to, like yeah, hold on.
I'll go ahead and explain a little bit. Oh, you're back?
Oh no, I thought that I had to call you because I didn't know if you've seen it through.
Okay. So this centerpiece here that we're looking at, this is an image that I took this last August when I was asked to come sit with Pa'Lante, and we did a circle. The first one that you see that's closest to you is the traditional circle centerpiece that Pa'Lante uses. The centerpiece of a circle is a very important element of what indigenous wisdom looks at. The circle moves to the left because that's how our energy moves. The circle is very universal and very fundamental to the practices of everyday life. There's certain realities of it. And so when we come and we sit in circle and we have that centerpiece, we're marking that spot, we're marking that moment in time. And we're trying to connect with the energies that move within it and become one with it. When you're sitting in circle, when you're having circle practice, and everybody works together, we can really make some beautiful change. It's a shifting of energies. It's a shifting of thoughts. It's a shifting of opinions. Sometimes when we look at it from conflict resolution, it's a way for people to be able to with the shape of with the focus of integrity. Make some acknowledgments and changes so they can return to some peace and harmony, restoring that balance of what might have been lost based on the actions that took place. But as Destiny mentioned, it's not just about conflict resolution. I definitely want to make certain that people understand the realities of that. Someone talks about restorative justice talking circles, and the very first thought, in my experience, when sharing with people, is, oh, it's something to, for fixing a problem. But it's a celebration. It's for building community. It's for sharing about life, about loss, and support. There's so many other components of it. When I started learning from Pa'Lante in the form that they used, I recognized right away that there was a synchronicity with the teachings that I was given before I moved to this part of the continent. Within those teachings, it's about the universalities of what a circle is. The circle has 4 directions. And within each one of those directions, there's a meaning. All Native people acknowledge the directions for their different ways. The teachings that I have, each one of these directions has a component about the person, about our community. And part of our community are the elements: earth, wind, fire, and water. Those are all elements that are natural and bring us balance to the circle. And then the 4 intelligences: heart, mind, body, spirit. And then who we represent. Because the real elements of community building then is we don't put ourselves first, we put the community first. Those are the first teachings. When we put the community first, that's who we represent. We represent our families. We represent ourselves as to whatever identity we have, whether it be gender or not. That's how we step into the circle, and all identities are welcome. We represent our family, and then lastly, we represent ourselves. And in each one of those levels of representation, those 4 intelligences have an impact: heart, mind, body, spirit. And within each one of those are the elements. And then with each one of those come the teachings from each of those directions. So when I sat there with Pa'Lante, I learned how talking circles are ceremony, and how through ceremony we can actually make change. And when I spent time within that experience is when I started learning about restorative justice in the ways taught by the origins of this practice known in restorative justice. And we'll go into that next. I guess what I want to ask before I jump into that is, should we take a 10-minute break? Because when we come back, we'll dive right into the circle. And we may have a time for a break afterwards, or we may not. Can I get just maybe a show of hands or a thumbs up if everybody wants to take a 10-minute break, or we can go in? All right. Looks like we're getting some thumbs up here. Okay, so let's take 10 minutes. I have on one of my many devices 1:34. We'll try to be back at 1:44. Thank you. Here I see some people having questions already, and I really appreciate that. Really simply, I just shared a link in the chat, restorecircles.love. This is the website for how this process has been shared through its original knowledge, and I'll discuss that later. But it's all free. You don't have to pay for nothing. It's all that you want to know about how to hold circles and everything. It's right there. So share that with you. We'll continue to kind of look at that in the next row. I'm going to repost the speaking order, and so that we can just have that handy if you need it, if anybody else has joined in. And before we we jump in with all of into the circle. We'll see if anyone has any questions. And so at this time, if there's any questions, go ahead, feel free just to pop them out. If not, we can go ahead and Destiny move us on. Give us a second here.
All right.
All right, no questions. Let's get rolling first.
All right. So now we're going to start with our opening before the video. So usually in circle, we start with an opening to like help set the tone for like our circle of the day. And I have a quote here. When I read it, I thought it was like pretty interesting because I saw like a documentary, but yeah, the quote is, hold on. Okay. All right, so the quote is, "The internet is no longer a web we connect to. Instead, it is a computerized network, interconnected. It's a computerized network, interconnected world that we live in. This is the future." And it's just very interesting because there's a lot going on.
Okay, thank you. This is short video, and I hope I've got the sound set up right. And it is on the website that I've shared with you. Excuse me. This is Phil Gatensby. He's one of the I don't want to say founders because it's not a founder, but he's one of the teachers and holders of the medicine of peacemaking. And the peacemaking process comes through his brothers and his relationships, the Tlingit people, in what is now Alaska, Yukon, and British Columbia. This knowledge was passed down by their grandmother, who's of the peacemaking clan. And as they teach, peacemaking is a community law. It's a natural law. It's a nurturing law. And that there is no space or place for justice in regards to revenge, in regards to restorative justice, or punishment. That's just left up to the great mystery. And so in the teachings that I've been able to briefly get from the brothers, the central element of it is communities first. In the way that their grandmother taught them, in the way that she was taught, in the way it was handed down through a matriarchal form of structure, being in a very difficult climate to survive in. There were more important things to work on than fighting. There were more important things to work on than revenge. There were more important things to work on than the violence that later came. And so through this process, Phil and Harold Gatensby started working in restorative justice practices in order to continue to build that harmony, that community, to continue the peacemaking that was given to them from their grandmother through song and story. Circle practice is about story. Circle practice is about talking story of what happened and how to write it. And all of us, when we sit in these circles, play a role in it. So I'm hoping, like I said, I've got this right. We're going to listen to this, and then we'll come back with some discussion questions, and we'll go around in that talk speaking order.
Escape me. Restorative justice. It seems like that means to put back something, right? To make it the way it was. And I'm not really clear on what they mean by that, what that means, right? Does it mean, what nature certainly has its own justice, right? You know, the law of the universe has some, I suppose if you want to call it justice, I'm not really clear. If you go out here in the north at 40 below zero and you don't dress warm, you're going to freeze, right? That's the law of the universe. You can't break that law. That law will break you. Maybe that's what they mean by that. I'm not sure, right? Restoring that, but Lord, I'm not sure if that's the best thing for us, right? I'm not even clear what justice is. And maybe they mean going back and making it a community-based, you know, letting people be involved with it. We've sort of given it away to experts now, right? I mean, if anything happens in our you know, our lives, we call the experts, right? Call the police or call the, you know, call that. You know, if something happens, if somebody breaks the law, let them take care of it. They're the experts. Let the judge do it, right? Let that. And maybe restorative means getting people involved again in it. You know, if that's the case, then that's a good idea. You know, people have been cut out, right? And I was thinking about this on the way here. Is we're so removed from that. We've somehow allowed ourselves to be removed from being responsible, right? Being responsible. You know what I thought of when I came out here? I thought, you know, I sat in a meeting a while ago, right, with a group of people. And it was about young people. It was about youth, right? And it started out. It was a tobacco and substance reduction strategy meeting. And I sat there and thought, you know, I listened to people, and there's a lot of people from the government that were there. And, you know, I looked around the room and I thought, everybody that's in this meeting today is paid, right? Being paid to be here. And I looked around and thought, there's actually only 3 or 4 of us here that are not, you know. And so I heard people talking, and it kind of it made its way around to them youth, right? Them youth. And it kind of made, you know, it made me a little irritated to hear that, right? And I thought about it, and I thought, and I said, I mean, eventually I said, they were talking about drug reduction, and I said, why would you want to reduce drugs, right? And the woman said to me, what? You know, drugs. I said, oh, I know what drugs are. You know, I know what they are. But what I'm asking is, why would you want to reduce them? Why would you make this big effort to reduce them? She said, well, drugs, they're bad for you, right? They're bad for family. They're bad for society. I said, but the drugs aren't the problem, right? The drugs are the symptom. And why are we trying to beat up the problem? Why are we spending all this time and energy beating the problem up, you know, when we need to, or rather the symptom up, when we need to go and deal with the problem? And it seems like we do that. Like as a society, it seems like we spend all kinds of time and energy, you know, trying to beat up the symptom, right? And we never get to the problem. We don't look at the problem because, this is my own opinion, if we look at the problem, we'll see a mirror and it will point back to us, right? And if we want to punish youth, you know, we need to look at ourselves. If we need to look at, if we're saying the youth are screwed up, well, who made them screwed up? You know, how did they become that way? And you know, as I was coming out here, like I said, I started thinking about that and thought, if we want to do something about crime or about youth and all that, we should punish ourselves. You know, we're the ones, we're the adults, we're the responsible ones, right? We did this. So now if we want to really get somebody for how the youth are today, punish ourselves. Smarten ourselves up. Because in this meeting, people said, I said, you know what? I can tell you what the problem with youth is today, okay? It's us. It's adults. You know, I said, you know, we say to youth, we want you to be honest, but are we honest? You know, that we say to the youth, I want you to show respect. Do we show respect to one another or to youth? You know, we say, we want you to, you know, do this, but we don't do that. You know, so, I mean, truth is, we say we want the youth to do this and that, but we're hypocrites because we ourselves don't do it. We exemplify the very thing that we tell them not to be. You know, so it's an interesting thing, right? We want them to change. We don't want them to. Maybe it's because they make us look at ourselves. Maybe it's because they become the mirror for us. You know, maybe they show us our own shit and we don't like the look of it. You know, and we're famous for, you know, trying to paint over it and make it look good. You know, we're famous for that as a society.
Destiny, you ready?
Okay. So my experience with restorative justice, and in being Pa'Lante is basically about restoring all the like institutional oppression that's basically been put on students in school. And
Okay, I'm not sure what's happening technically. Well, if we could begin again with,
oh, my bad, it muted. I was talking and it was on mute. Okay, that is not nice. So, oh my God, back to what I was saying. So restorative justice to me is basically about like how we learn together about the indigenous lands that were here and how we tackle on the institutional oppression that's going on within our school and the school to prison pipeline. And we basically have to work through all of those things within our school, and we have to like unlearn a lot of the things that were very like fixated to us from when we were younger to like where we're at now in school. And yeah. And so in Holyoke High, like well not in Holyoke High, in Pa'Lante, as well as restorative justice, we also think about like transformative justice and how we aren't trying to restore the things back to the way they were. Like we want to transform the systems that created the problem in the first place. And that's why in addition to circles, we do like participatory research action projects and community organizing every year to address like larger problems that are going on systemically within our school and community, like racism and youth oppression.
great, thank you. We could just go ahead and begin with our speaking circle. I believe it was Elisa?
Hi, my background with restorative justice and transformative justice is in a previous field of work that I engaged in for about 20 years. And that was working on the issue of sex offending and working with victims and survivors of sexual violence and the people who perpetrated the harm and the communities surrounding both the victim and survivors and the person who perpetrated the harm. And it was when I launched this process back in about 2002, it was a really new concept in the United States, but we took a lot of guidance from folks in a Native community in Manitoba. And they had been working on bringing a restorative justice process to their reserve there, because at the time about 1 in every 3 people, women in the community, had been sexually abused. And so they developed a very specific process for situations of sexual violence. And we worked on this in the United States in consultation on a regular basis with our partners up in Manitoba, and made a lot of progress in bringing the model to communities around the United States, which was really interesting because, as I imagine everybody knows, sexual violence is one of those things that people feel like, you know, punishment needs to be severe and swift for the person who is perpetrating harm. And this this approach really was looking at understanding that sexual harm is perpetrated most often within a community, a close community, or families, or people that know each other well. And so what was happening was, because people were so worried about a kind of punitive, quote unquote, criminal justice response, people were not bringing the situations of sexual harm forward, because they didn't want to bring the person who was harming them into the criminal justice system. So this really kind of shifted the dynamic around how we were responding to sexual harm. It's a really, really complicated topic, and I hope I'm not, I probably should have offered a trigger warning before I started sharing this, because I know that many of us have, including myself, have been victims and are survivors of sexual abuse, sexual violence in some way. So I apologize that I didn't offer that trigger warning. And I know that this is a complicated topic for many, many people, and I'm really happy to talk back channel to anyone if you want more information. It's my past kind of professional life that I was doing that work, but that really is where I come to this day and this session from, with that background. Thanks. Sorry that was so long.
I think, am I next? Just go on with this? Okay. Hi, again, I'm Taylor, she, her. I'll just share something short. I think I view restorative justice as, I wish I could remember what culture or language this came from, but I saw somewhere a long time ago that it's like a bird. Its wings are being tied and the bird is seen as broken, but it's not the bird that's broken, it's the ties that hold its wings. And so I view restorative justice as the untying of wings, and that's kind of my view of it. So that's all I'll share.
Rosanna?
Rosanna? Yeah, I echo what you all said.
Estoy de acuerdo con lo que todos
I think I am in Spanish, English channel. Yeah. I think first we have to restore ourselves. And it is important to learn how to do this. And also very important to have the support of of the community around us to heal together. I think restorative justice has that experience available for all of us. And I think it's so important to know more about how to do this process in community.
So Jeff stepped out. If Alexandra is here?
Alexandra?
Yes.
I'm just going to interrupt quickly. Carla, I did take you off interpretation and added Giselle. So you all should be set, and I think you should be free to go, Carla.
Awesome, thank you. Can you make sure she's all set? Because she sent me a message, she was a little confused. I'm not sure if she's all set to go. I don't want to leave and just leave you guys hanging like that.
Sure. Giselle, can you hear us? Let's see, I saw her initially, and now I don't. Oh, there she is. Giselle, can you hear me? I'm on the English channel. So if you're on the Spanish channel, I won't be able to hear you.
Okay, that makes more sense. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, so if you need to interpret in English, you have to switch to the English channel, and Spanish, you'll be on the Spanish channel. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yes, it does. I got you. No problem.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I think you should mostly be on the Spanish channel, I'm guessing, for this session.
Yep.
Are you guys all set?
Makes sense. Thank you,
Thank
Carla.
you, Carla. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I see that Jeff is back. Jeff, we were at that point where if you could share your understanding of restorative justice, what you know about the practice, what you've learned about RJ here in Western Mass, your experience, etc. Any one of those prompts, or just a response to the video that was shared?
Yeah, I have a lot to learn, so I have some understanding that restorative justice is when you try to recognize some problem that has occurred, that's been created, and restore people back to their earlier state, where if they were healthier, and where if you can, and if you can't, then come to some agreements together about how you will make amends in some way to create the most just situation that you're able to.
Thank you. Who's after Jeff is Alexandra. I don't know if you're, I don't see your name. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. CL Dukes.
Hi, this is Cheryl Dukes. I pass.
Okay, I think it's me. Hi, everyone. Clark here. I don't have direct experience with restorative justice in terms of actual practice. I would say the relationship I have to it has mostly been through being involved in talking circles and councils in which there may not have been a restorative justice or aim, but more just an aim around sharing in community and for the purposes of healing. So like we're doing now in a talking circle. And my experience with that has been really positive and actually profound. particularly on Zoom, where I often don't remember most of the meetings I've ever been to because they all feel like they're very disembodied. But when I've actually been in circle practice, especially virtually, I actually enter my body much more fully, and I listen in a much deeper way. And so that's mostly been, I guess, the relationship I've had with it. And I see it as a practice that can be calling us into greater possibility around honesty, authenticity, and alignment with the values that we really profess to hold, but maybe don't always practice. I think it's Lexi.
Thanks, Clark. I also don't have, I have little to no direct experience with participating in any kind of restorative justice that I'm aware of. I was actually at a training on Sunday, like a kind of a 5-hour training or so that was restorative practices oriented. So I've definitely got my feet in the toes in the water, feet in the water there. It's a 2-part training, so I was only in the first part. And I'm still a little unsure about the differences between restorative practices and restorative justice. But I think overall, my intuition about it all is that it's a much more humane approach to growing together, like community, and through community building, through relationship building. And it also requires humility and is less finger pointing, which is what we really like to do, I think, in our society, is point fingers and say shame. But I think it feels like there is a foundation of like some kind of theory in which like that is used that thinks about people, that people aren't inherently bad or evil or trying to do bad things or evil things just for the sake of it, that we're all kind of inherently really good, and that there are just needs that aren't being met in some kind of way. So I think it's a way of looking at people like that and trying to solve problems with that lens. That's all my guesses. I think then Kristen is next.
Thanks. Yeah, I also don't have any formal, experience really with restorative justice. It's a practice I feel I also have a lot to learn in, and I loved the video. I think the questioning of like, what do we mean by restorative really resonated with me. Thinking about, in some ways I think many of us, myself, I feel like I have a lot to unlearn. And I think a lot about sort of like, sometimes we hear like the cop in our head, or like the systems that are internal, that we've internalized, and unlearning some of those. But then I think the question sometimes is in what do we replace them with? And I think while the Food Policy Council has been not experimenting or learning about restorative justice, but circle practice, yes. And I think we've been, learning about something that you said at the beginning, Jose, about circles as ceremony, and the power of a circle practice as, not just being about conflict resolution, but also being about, showing up as yourself, most likely with trauma and pain, and coming to a space where you can share about your life and about who you are, and grow in community. And I think that's what one of the powerful things that I've seen in some of the especially in like the unstructured food policy council meetings that we have once a month right now with the startup circle. So yeah, I think this like transforming ourselves internally and in community are sort of in tandem, and maybe help us to think about like, what are the systems that we create to replace the ones that aren't working? And that's part of it for me. And I think it goes to Sammy. Thanks.
Hi. My experience with restorative justice has been learning about it and really needing it while I have been working in the nonprofit sector and, you know, what we call human services, and just really needing it in order to continue to take care of people, to do my job and to be a person who wants to care about people. And what I've experienced is that when you're in a nonprofit world, a lot of the time, the mission or the idea is that we take care of each other. We're working on healing. In some capacity, maybe not using the word healing, but a lot of these structures don't actually have the resources to support any restorative justice, or a lot of the culture actually encourages the idea that people are disposable, even if they're not saying that, and they don't come back and look at that. So in my experience, it's been trying to reinvent culture that just kind of starts by acknowledging that we all do harm and we all have experienced harm. And so when we're starting from that point, how do we treat each other, and like what kind of community do we want to be in when we know that we can harm and we do harm, and how do we just like start from not avoiding it? And something that I think about when I think about restorative justice is that I come from I think about it in terms of like, everybody has this initial point of contact where they're either trying to connect or they're trying to protect themselves. And either way, that original intention, how does the community encourage connecting again? How do we encourage people to be able to feel like they can protect themselves and they can connect, instead of everybody being in silos and doing it on their own? What I've understood is that it is a sign of respect, and it's not a shame. It doesn't have to be about shaming, or it doesn't have to be about somebody being wrong, but it's a sign of respect and love to work through harm with people. And how wonderful would it be if we were able to heal, and like through our actions, or our communications, or Jeff said, like coming to mutual agreements. How wonderful would it be if our communities helped us to work through those things and like foster those values? And it doesn't look the same for people. It doesn't look the same for anybody. I think that can be a very unique, specific process, but because we're all unique, it seems like there's like that mirror reflection piece. So I think a lot about how if the organizations or the people who are paid to be in a space, as was brought up in the video, were able to be paid to acknowledge that they harm and that the people they work with do harm, how do we want to go from that point? Like, how do we love both those bodies? Yeah, it's kind of a ramble, but what's next after me? Kathy.
Hi, everybody. So I haven't had a lot of direct experience with restorative justice, but a lot of circle work and a lot of looking at with the power of circle in creating this protected space where we can be fully present. To me, restorative justice is about allowing everyone to step into the circle as a whole being with dignity and being there to, whether it's to enter in or to re-enter in and feel welcome and seen, whether that's to address some kind of suffering or to be able to collectively celebrate. I think that it is participatory as opposed to passive, and that we all have a responsibility to engage in the things that bring us joy, but also practice together with the things that make us uncomfortable, and really be held in what what we naturally do in terms of fight, flight, or freeze, and be with each other to let that pass, and then what can come up and be evolve and be more allow for everyone's gifts to be more available both to themselves and to the rest of the community. I think that it also gives us a time to feel, to practice our listening, and this idea that just keeps coming up to me is like really, truly feeling belonging. I am feeling like I'm rambling. Right before this event, we had a armed person on campus, and I witnessed some of it, and so I think that this is also reminding me of how much we feel in our bodies that we ignore, and how restorative justice process can be an opportunity to kind of unpack that a little bit, by being more fully present and not trying to push things away, but welcoming it in, and it all is there, and that circle acts as a shepherd to help it move through us, but also what energy can be released and what energy can we build on. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Julia, I don't recall them being present.
I think Julia was here but left.
Okay, and then we have Karen Anderson.
Hi, everybody. My experience with restorative justice, I'm thinking that it would equate somewhat to peer mediation, high school peer mediation, being present, resolving conflict, in a neutral way. And sorry, this is a little hard. But I think that the main thing is to be present. And from the film, I got a lot from what he had said when he questioned what does restorative mean. And I also got a lot from the person who spoke about, that we all do harm and that we all experienced harm. Those were my takeaways. My big thing is that I think that part of restorative justice is being present and dealing with the situations on hand with compassion, as well as with some kind of knowledge of situations. Good. Thank you.
Hey everyone. So I think my experience with restorative justice probably is from when I was at UMass Amherst, and I did a project on prison abolition, and me and my group did a lot of research on restorative justice in other Indigenous communities around the world. And so that was a really fun project, diving into seeing like what restorative justice looked like in other communities outside of America and like how it was working for them. And then also when I was at UMass, I was part of the Student Government Association, and we attempted to work with the university to get restorative justice implemented into the RA training, so the RAs would be trained in restorative justice circles. I actually learned about restorative justice at UMass through Pa'Lante because one of my teachers worked with them, and I was like, this is super dope, and this is really dope that these are high school students. So that's why I was like, I have to be here, because we could never successfully get we couldn't successfully get them at RA training. So I was like, I have to somehow be involved with them. And then when I was a resident director at Amherst College, restorative justice, in theory, we're doing restorative practices in our conduct, the way we handled conduct at the university. I say in theory because it's still an institution and there's definitely some key pieces missing. But that was in theory their goal, is with doing restorative justice. So I've had I think a decent amount of experience, but I feel like not as much as there could be. And of course, there's always more to learn.
Thank you, Talia. And thank you everyone for sharing. My experience has been, actually, I was on the City of Northampton Police Commission, where we were looking at alternatives to the traditional notion of policing in the community. And my job was to research restorative justice. So I only know it from a research perspective, but that research pointed me toward the DA's office, district attorney. And so I believe in the potential of restorative justice, but I have two large concerns about it. And the first one is that the concepts that we have been talking about are being, I'm going to use the word co-opt, and that might be a bit strong, but are being co-opted by offices like the DA's office. And so this is a justice department that defines justice in one way, and I think restorative justice is defining it in a different way. And so I just don't know how successful we're going to be when we put a concept like this into a traditional government structure. My second concern about it, and love to get feedback, is the cultural appropriation of the concept. And as a white person, I want to know how we get from here to there in a very white dominated culture. And so taking some of the concepts that we've been talking about, which are all beautiful, how do we, and I'm going to use the word appropriate them into society as we know it, to really make some significant changes. So I think I have more questions as I learn, and thank you all for sharing, because I've learned a lot from all of you. And I will turn it over to Courtney.
I think Courtney had to head out. I keep losing the list.
Heather Craig?
Is Heather there?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I turn it over to Heather?
Thank you. And I'm really grateful to be here, and it's good to see so many faces I've missed. And I have kind of a different experience of this. When I was very little, like grammar school age, I had some very close friends who were from Crow Agency and went to school in town in the winter, and had the opportunity to go home with them a number of times. And it wasn't called restorative justice. It was just what her people were doing. And I was the kid playing on the sidelines, listening to the adults do this. So, and it was a situation where someone had been a lot of times in the ceremony, it was just talking about how is everyone and whose leg is sore and who has just had a baby, and it's like all of that. So, but there was this one time when I was in 4th grade, and someone had been intoxicated and had killed someone in a family situation, and everyone was there, and it was, you know, as a kid, you can feel the rawness, even if you don't speak the language, which I didn't. And every so often, Winnie or Rachel would translate for me something that I was clearly wanting to know, but it was like they're whispering in my ear kind of thing, because we're all in 4th grade. And one of the things that I learned was that in that language, there's no word for I'm sorry. You can't actually apologize if you've done something that's harmed somebody, right? So this person who had caused the real pain didn't have any alcohol in their system. And one of the first things that Rachel's great grandmother did, and this is one of the things I asked about, was to thank him for bringing to everyone's attention that there was something wrong in the body of the community as a whole, right? And that everyone needed to make a change to make sure that this sort of thing didn't happen, that something like it didn't happen. And that was a really different concept for me. And then I listened to, you know, what he was doing, and he was saying, what is it that I need to do to get, and they used a term that basically Rachel translated as walking correctly, being able to walk right, like in balance yourself. So he was asking, how could he be in balance so that he wasn't knocking everything off? And that made a huge impact on me. And, you know, I later heard about one of her aunts who had a domestic violence situation, and watched the care for her pain and her injuries, and also the care for the person who had done it. And it was really powerful for me, because it changed every way I dealt with the things that had happened to me, and the things that happened to my friends, and the things that my friends did. And somewhere deep inside me was that whole idea that this doesn't happen in a vacuum. And if somebody's behaving in a way that's really not a healthy way for them or anybody else, they're expressing something bigger that's a bigger wrong. And in order for them to be able to become well, we all have to become well. And then in later times here, I chose a mentor who is Micmac and who does this kind of work, and went to be part of her organization. So thank you very much.
I added myself to the list. I think I wasn't on the original list because I'm the host, but I don't have any direct experience with restorative justice. I have a lot of curiosity about it. I've done some research on it. I've wondered how it might be a useful practice to some of the work that I've done. I think most of what I've heard about it is really sort of it's a collaborative approach to addressing harm being done. And Sammy, your words are just really sticking with me about like, how does it change the conversation if we think about all of us as having harm done to us and having done harm? Seems like such a useful tool. And, you know, I guess one of the questions I have about it is how to get everybody to embrace the framework, and how to, you know, implement it in a situation where people might not be ready to accept the idea that they themselves have done harm or can do harm or have the potential to do harm. So yeah, thanks. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Was there anybody else who got overlooked? Thank you for the questions. Same questions I have. Exact same questions I have. As I started to kind of return to this. So cultural appropriation of this medicine, of this wisdom. It began back in the Yukon when Phil and Harold were approached by a judge by the name of Barry Sanders. And I'm going to try to move through this quick. It's all on that website that I shared earlier, and I can paste it in there again. You can go back and study this. A judge came through, knew that Phil and Harold had a connection with the peacemaking process. Phil and Harold have, Harold actually has an institutional relationship with the court systems, and both Phil and Harold have a relationship with residential schools. The judge came and connected with them, basically saying, you know, I'm tired of seeing the same people over and over again. We're doing, what can you help? Phil and Harold came and they started bringing their knowledge and their wisdom. If you have a chance to sit with them, they do events, you should go sit with them. It's worth it. It's free. And it's valuable. And you can get that story from them. But in the end, this judge hired an administrative assistant who documented every single thing that they did. They made it linear. They made it ready. They interpreted what they thought they could, and then they put it in a book, cookbooks, as they call them. And then those cookbooks started going on sale, and then people started looking at it, and then institutions started getting certificates going, and then all these different colleges came up, and everybody started going, look at this, what I'm doing, I'm wonderful, and they stole the medicine because they never gave any credit back to the people. They started charging for it. They started creating certifications in which the actual founders, historians, people of this lineage who brings this medicine can no longer even practice it because now the institutions believe you have to have a certification. They have erased not just Phil and Harold and Phil and Harold's grandmothers, they have added to the erasure of the Tlingit people, of that matriarchal clan, of that law. And Phil and Harold now, who partner with Saira, they mention their names and they bring them up, but they really aren't pressing because in that same teaching that they have, it's, you know, the great mystery. It's their responsibility to do the punishment. But we are going to make people aware, and that's one of the realities of it. And I thank everybody for sharing. I want to try to get us to this next phase of how do we restore this honor. And it's happening through Pa'Lante Restorative Justice program, because through them, I learned and witnessed the actual practice of an indigenous methodology within an institution. And I'm going to ask Destiny if she can speak more to it. And we have one more video to watch and before we go. I believe we have time. Let me take a look at I believe we have time. It's a short video and then we can move forward from there. Thank you.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I wanted to make sure I was muted. All right, so one of the main things Pa'Lante does is hold circles for our community at Holyoke High School. We use circles to help solve like conflicts and give students the support that they need, as well as grief circles and celebration circles. And so like the circle practice, well, the practice of circle keeping is really like what we have learned is very sacred to us. And our teacher for like helping us like learn more about like our circle practice is Dr. Saira Pinto. I'm so bad if I said that wrong. And we learn from the Mohawk and Wampanoag people, and we give thanks to them especially for connecting us to that tradition, and like we hold it to us, and like we always acknowledge that anytime we do any type of circle practice. And hold on, I had one more thing right here. And so basically not last year, but the year before last year, like just doing all the circle practice, like conflict and griefs and support and celebration throughout the year, we had 234 like referrals for circles, 144 circles, and 201 suspension days were prevented through our circle practice. And the way that we do restorative justice within our program and in our school. And there was 93% of no further violence and 94% of problems being solved within our school. And yeah, hold on. All right, I feel like I missed something. Is there more to this question?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I'm asking like if I missed anything, like is there something that I should reiterate or something?
I think the only component that when we were talking earlier is, you know, acknowledging where it comes from, who these people are actually, and you did bring it up because you mentioned the Mohican and Lenape people as well, but also building community, no, through the YPAR.
Yeah, through our YPAR project, that's how like we share our circle practice, and once a year we host like a big training session where we teach the people who come to our event how to like host circle practice, and we get like into depth of like what circle practice is really about. And so we have like a few forms of circles, and yeah, we like really like engage with our community through circles. We also have like a community advisory board that we also have circles with, and those are like adults and allies within the community, and also people like who work like in the school. So yeah, like we build a lot of community and we do a lot through circle. And we also learn a lot like every year from different people, like not like different people, like different indigenous groups that teach us how to like be our better selves and how to like keep adding on to our circle practice that we do every year, and how to like keep that sacred to us. Like we don't like to lose that perspective of like the indigenous perspective part. Like every time we introduce a circle, we always like let people know like where it's coming from and why it's so important and why are we doing the circle.
Yeah, there is so much more. I'm going to show another video here real quick that also in the part of the Pa'Lante website, and I'll put that link here in the chat in just a minute. Actually, it's going to come up here.
This sign is only in Spanish, and it's not proper Spanish, it's in slang. So it's geared towards Hispanic students and students of color. And so we've decided that today we're going to take it down. We have nothing to lose but our change. We have nothing to lose but our change.
What would you change the system would be broken for us. So it starts with them for generations to come.
Youth-led.
Peaceful.
Changing the system. Woke.
For Holyoke and everything beyond that, it's bigger than me. To be honest, it's bigger than Holyoke.
Holyoke is a community that's very rich in its culture and its art. You see it everywhere you go every day, hear it, smell it, see it.
Holyoke was a very wealthy city at one point. Now it struggles, and most of the people, particularly who live in downtown, make less than $20,000 a year.
Holyoke has a history of being prejudiced and subliminally racist.
A few weeks back, I was called a spick for speaking Spanish on the streets with my father.
It starts out there and then it comes in here, what these kids see on the street, and that affects how high schoolers come in and they separate themselves and they have these judgments towards each other.
Our lunchroom is segregated.
Kids start fighting depending on where they live.
You never know if something will break loose.
When there's fights and there's police, it's like, feels kind of like prison.
The school to prison pipeline is a system set up against people of color. It pushes them to drop out, or it just like has them expelled, which ends up making them lead to the streets for money, and this ends up leading into the prison system.
This is my redemption road. I'm headed to the top, just let everybody know. I'm overcoming for the ones that came before me. And why you see me after
poverty,
ignorance, racism,
the system.
Take a look at my success story. Yeah, take a look at your success story. And yours and mine.
We all sit in a circle and we move to the left because it's the closest to our hearts, but we make sure that everybody's heard and everybody gets their word out.
We have support circles, we have conflict circles, and we have our circles that we do together as a group.
I feel like circles just give people hope that they could do bigger and better things.
Again, I was the first Puerto Rican in the darn state, the whole state of Massachusetts, to be elected.
And that was in what year?
That was in 1985.
In 1985.
We have come a very long way. We need more. We need more both on the in and we need more on the out, because that's where you create the power.
Success story, and yours and mine, and ours and yours and mine, and ours. Story.
So basically for each project, we get together, we try and find out everybody's problems that are going on in the Holyoke community and also the Holyoke High School community. Then we do a whole bunch of research to change the problem. When students develop that critical lens, then they also have a responsibility to address injustice and to, again, imagine what transformation might look like. So it's not just about necessarily learning or critical thinking, but it's also about action.
Our voice is being heard, and it may seem like a small thing, just a sign, but this is the start of something big.
The best initiatives in the city aren't from the mayor's office down. It's organic, like grassroots efforts like this that are led from the bottom up.
But instead of heading back to the streets, you hit the books and came back with degrees, came back with diplomas, came back to succeed, came back to believe. Now you know there's more than life than the streets. Yeah. This is my redemption road.
Pa'Lante provided a place where I could actually make friends, have a sense of family inside my school, and actually give me more determination to come to school.
I think this is a model that is really unique, and it's ahead of its time in the state and even across the country.
Love.
Family.
Community.
For everybody.
Revolutionary.
Pa'Lante.
Yeah. Good day. It's a good day. Don't it feel good?
So you can see that Pa'Lante, in the way that they are involving so many people, are what are bringing it back to its indigenous practices. And if you look in the room at the elders who are leading them and the people sitting in the circle and the people who are supporting them, they look like the people sitting in the circle. Cultural appropriation, based on the institutions, in the way the process has been done, has given it a ticket to non-indigenous people to suddenly have the skills and authenticity and certifications to hold circle, but they're not even part of a community in the way in which these communities are. I love Holyoke because I see the community there in a way that was similar to the Mexicano communities in the barrios from where I'm from, and how the family supported one another. And that when something happened, there was no human services, there was family, there was relations. We took care of one another, we watched for one another, we watched for each other's kids, we shared these things. And that's what's part of the challenge that we have today. And it's the attack on the community. So as Holyoke sat there and embraces it by the former receiver, they are also attacking the community. And an example of what I mean by that is right now, ethnic studies in Holyoke is under attack. They have removed they had a coordinator, ethnic studies coordinator. And Mahoney, who used to be the principal, is now one of the administrators. He and some other administrators decided to choose that all of a sudden, for equity's sake, they needed to remove that coordinator from that position. Why? Because the other core subjects of math, reading, and science didn't have coordinators. They only had department chairs. And what the coordinator did at the time was massive, huge. I've sat there and listened since this happened in May. We participated. We have a community action board for the Holyoke Ethnic Studies Department that is trying to get that position reinstated. And I want to share with you what the teachers and the youth are saying. This was a recent video that just came out as an example, again, of how the school system is attempting to sit there and appropriate the one aspect of its student body and youth and community, and yet at the same time disrespecting another. And that's just not what is equitable. We have this last one. Hopefully we may not go through it all.
Hello, my name is Irene Ushamirski, or Miss Ushamirski to my students. I teach 10th grade ethnic studies ELA at Holyoke High School North. And I'm here tonight with 4 of my 10th graders to ask you to consider reinstating the Ethnic Studies Director role. The Ethnic Studies Director role is a full-time position that is staffed by a person who supports all of the Ethnic Studies teachers in the district in doing their work. Without the Ethnic Studies Director position, I have not had the kind of support in lesson planning and lesson execution that I would have had if that role was filled. I know that the program is seriously feeling the lack of the support that we get from the Ethnic Studies Director. And we know that our program would be so much stronger if this role was in fact reinstated. I'm now going to pass the mic to Taya Gilbert, a 10th grade student in Ethnic Studies English, who will explain what Ethnic Studies means to her and what her experience in the class has been like.
Hi, I am Taya Gilberg, and this is what I have. Coming to Holyoke in 9th grade was a change for me that I needed to take. I am a 10th grade student at Holyoke High School North, and I came here from a charter school. Being at Holyoke High has given me opportunities to make the right choices for myself. Ethnic Studies has been one of those choices. Ethnic Studies was something I never knew about or heard about. But when I heard the option to be in Ethnic Studies classes, I was curious about the new style of learning it could give me. The 5 C's, or core values, of Ethnic Studies made me want to be in the CGS Academy and pursue future Ethnic Studies courses. After being in Ethnic Studies for 9th and 10th grade, these classes have really surprised me. I appreciate the community building activities that we do that allow us to think about our own identities and power and privilege in the US. I love Ethnic Studies because what it has taught me about myself. Ethnic Studies was a big pull for me to come to Holyoke, and I'm very thankful that I made that decision. Because many people don't know what Ethnic Study is, I want to use my time to share with you the 5 C's of Ethnic Studies. It is my hope that you will leave here today with a better understanding about why the Ethnic Studies program is so important for students in Holyoke. The 5 C's of Ethnic Studies are cariño, authentic relationships between students and teachers built on trust; community. In Ethnic Studies, we learn through counter-narratives and local histories, and also learn together in community with our classmates. Critical pedagogy. Critical thinking results from the way our Ethnic Studies teachers teach us to read and know the world so that we can name social problems and then work to solve them. Culturally relevant content. We learn about our identities, our histories, and the learning helps us to understand our current world. This relevance empowers students to do their best work because what we are learning matters. And finally, centering students. In our Ethnic Studies classes, students become teachers and teachers become learners. Our knowledge as young people is taken seriously and valued. Being in an Ethnic Studies classroom has really allowed me to experience those core values, the 5 C's of Ethnic Studies. I have also learned that Ethnic Studies is not to be taken for granted because most students around the country do not get the opportunity to have an Ethnic Studies class. In Holyoke, students are taking Ethnic Studies in 7th through 9th grade if they choose to. This is because teachers fought for the right for us to have this opportunity. The role of the Ethnic Studies Director was really important in getting this program started, and also expanding the program so that we can take courses all the way through 12th grade. We are here tonight to urge you to support Ethnic Studies, not only in words, but in actions. You can do this first and foremost by reinstating the Ethnic Studies Director role. Thank you. I will be passing this on to my classmate, Veronica.
I'm going to stop it there. We're getting close to time. If you want to see the remainder of that video, it's right here. It's the link for it. It's a current it's a current obstacle we're working towards removing, and is again an example of how institutionalizing this indigenous practice of circle is thievery, because the institution doesn't even respect its own voice. It is hypocrisy in action. But this time I'd like to just say thank you and hand this over to Destiny.
All right. So thank you all so much for coming today and participating. And I'd like to share a quote with you guys as our closing. Where'd it go? Okay. So the quote for our closing would be, we have a powerful potential in our youth, and we must encourage, whoops, let me restart that. We have a powerful potential in our youth, and we must have the courage to change the old ideas and practices so that way we may direct their power towards good ends. And yeah, I found that quote today in one of our papers that I've had in Pa'Lante, and I just felt like that was very relevant to like what's going on within our school and within like the videos that we just finished seeing. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you all so much for coming today and sharing and participating and just being here and listening. Yeah.
Thank you so much to Jose and Destiny for doing our learning circle today. It was awesome to have you both here. So had such great conversation, and really appreciate those videos that you shared. And I also appreciate everybody coming. It's always great to see all your faces, even on Zoom. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're
Really.
welcome.
Bye-bye.